Excellent. Hi, Trish. Let's get this going. And all right. So let me review slideshow. All right. Can everybody see the presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Rock and roll. All right, cool. So this is going to be a basic overview on your metabolism and how diet culture has kind of interfered with a lot of us being successful. So the first part of this presentation and the bulk of it is going to be a little bit sciencey, and I'm going to do my best to make this make analogies to make sure that you guys can kind of understand the deep science part. But if at any time you're a little bit lost and you need me to slow down, please feel free to reach out, let me know. I'll stop the presentation. I don't have a tremendous amount of slides, so I'm hoping that there's some time for questions and answers either during the presentation, slide by slide, or afterwards. I have a little bit of time as well. So without further ado, let's get this started. So I kind of want to give a little bit of social proof that the things that I'm trying to teach you today are successful. They're a little bit counterintuitive to what a lot of us have been told, but this is one of my former clients and now coach at Lead the Way Fitness, Valeria. She was my client for her and her husband for about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years. We were doing personal training together. And this is her beforehand when she was eating, I believe it was 13 to 1400 calories. And this is her at 22 to 2300 calories, eating almost 1,000 calories more. So next one right here, we got Heather. I asked her if she can, if it was okay to put her picture up here. Now, she started way before I had met her, but this is where she had began. And then this is where she's the most recent picture I can find where you're kind of currently at the moment at right now. Now, I didn't have a full part of her getting from here to here. Most of that actually was her and her efforts. But I did have a little bit of a part and helped her lose, was it 5% body fat? With it with this information that we're going to be going over today. So about 5% body fat, which is tremendous. And then of course we got my wifey over here, her with Dave Roberts on the left, and then her currently, this is her most recent picture that she wanted me to share. So this is my wife, Kira. She lost a tremendous amount of weight as well with a counterintuitive method of eating more food. And we're going to go into the science about that, and then I'll go and give you some action steps following afterwards. All right, so let me go ahead and move this. What is metabolism? So without looking at the page, I just gave it to you, but what would you guys say metabolism is in your own words? Anybody?
Digestive rate or no?
I'm sorry?
Like when you like metabolism, the rate of your digestion, or not the word I'm trying to come up with. Gosh,
I understand where you're coming from. Yeah, so it's kind of like the rate at which your body extracts nutrients. Right here, it's going to say extracts energy from your food and puts it into cells in your body. Now, very common when I ask this question, it's I hear something about burn fat, burn this, burn that. And that's just one part of the equation when somebody says metabolism, because there's an energy in and an energy out component. Now, your body doesn't actually burn anything, right? It doesn't burn, there's no fire in there that's burnt. Like, so when people use the word burn, it's basically using energy. So what I'd like to use is a little analogy here. So when your car is out of gas, what do? You go to the gas station, correct? So when it's out of gas, so what happens is you go to the gas station, you grab your fuel pump, and you're putting gasoline into your car. I would I would use the analogy that your metabolism is kind of like whatever that the magic that happens in that gas pump that gets the gas from the ground into your car is what your metabolism does, right? It extracts the gas from the ground. All the magic happens. Your metabolism starts doing its thing, and it puts all of that energy or gasoline into your vehicle. So that's how you can kind of think of your metabolism. Extracting. Oh, we got another participant. One second. I think we do. I do. One second. Sorry. So it's basically extracting all of the gasoline from the ground and putting it into your body. We're extracting nutrients from the food and putting it into your body. So that's simplifying that right there. Oh, I got Patty coming in. Sorry, this is why I wanted to wait a little bit longer. Excellent. Okay. Now, molecules in your food, such as amino acids, which are basically your broken down proteins, your sugars, which are broken down carbohydrates, and fats, we have fatty acids, which are broken down fats, contain energy that's extracted through the process of metabolism. And at the very end of extracting all of that, you're going to get ATP, which is basically the gasoline or energy for your body's systems that we have going on. So ATP is basically the body's energy currency for cells. So you want to think about money. If you don't have any money, you don't have any ATP, you don't have any energy for your body's cells. So if we eat more energy compared to the ATP that our body uses throughout the day, then that energy is stored as adipose tissue, or what is also called fat cells. And to a lesser extent, it's lean muscle mass and glycogen. Now, if we eat less energy compared to the ATP that we use, then that is taken out of fat cells and to a lesser extent, lean mass and glycogen. So I know it's a lot of sciencey words right here, but if you eat more, if you make more money than you're using month to month, you're going to be able to put money into a savings account, right? So that's going to be able to put, yeah, everybody likes that, right? But that's in our terms right now, that's putting fat onto your body. If you're using more ATP, if you're putting more energy into your body than you use, you store it as fat. Now, if you have a pay cut or you lose a job, right, you're spending more money than you're making. Now your body has to go into a savings account, which is the fat cells to use for energy. So basically, if we want to just dumb that down a little bit, if we eat more energy than we need, we store fat. If we eat less energy than we need, we have fat loss. So in a nutshell, it's just calories in versus calories out. So I'm going to stop right here and ask, does everybody kind of get a grasp of this, or is there anything you want me to kind of go over before we get any further in here?
Well explained. I like it.
I'm trying to make ATP and fatty acids and amino acids simple for people to understand. It's kind of a complicated thing if you've never heard it. Rock and roll. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So this is where things get a little complicated. So like I said, it's energy in, the amount of food you eat, versus energy out, the amount of calories that your body expends or uses. Now, that energy out portion of the equation changes, and it changes quite often, and it changes for multiple different reasons. This is where people struggle, right? Because that energy that comes out is not always the amount that you think it is, which is why we end up putting money into the savings account or storing fat, because you're not using as much as you probably think you are. So dieting activates something which I'm going to simply call your body's self-defense system. Now, I want to give you a little story or a little bit of kind of a background. If you were in, let's say, caveman times, right? And your body didn't know where its next meal would come. What do you think your body would do to make sure it doesn't burn too many calories?
Hold the fat.
It would actually, yes. Part of it is that's correct, Danny. It would hold on to fat, right? It would
It
try to
would
store
become more
as much.
efficient with the calories it gets.
That's exactly right. But yeah, but Danny's 100% right too. It will want to hold on to more fat because it doesn't know when the next meal would come. And that fat, like I said, is your savings account when things get tough. So it's going to want to keep more of that on your body. Yeah. So to reword. Oh no. We'll go back to reword what Heather said. She used the language perfect. It was to be more efficient, right? Is that what you said? To be more efficient with the
Yeah.
calories? So, in other words, it's not going to want to burn as many calories as it's used to because it wants to save more money. I'm going to use this right here. $2,000, you're making $2,000 a month, and your bills and expenses come out to $2,000 a month. Now you get a pay cut, tough times hit, you're now only getting $1,500 a month. What are you going to have to do so that you can make your bills? You're going to have to reduce your spending, right?
Mhm.
So when Heather says be more efficient with the calories it burns, it's going to reduce the amount of spending that you're going to be able to do. You're not going to be able to, you're probably going to have to cut Netflix and not go out to eat as much, or things of that sort, so that you can actually end up paying your bills. So all the extras go out. So instead of burning, if you continue to make that $1,500, you're going to reduce the spending that you have to $1,500 so that you don't go bankrupt or lose all your money. So your body does something very similar. Instead of burning 2,000 calories, if you keep putting 1,500 calories in there, the self-defense mechanism kicks in, and now your body slows down metabolic processes so that you only burn 1,500 calories. So you're going to have to use that kind of analogy. If you're constantly putting less calories than your body needs, your body's smart and will adapt to that and only burn the amount that you keep putting in, which is why people's metabolism slows down, right? Now, the what determines how strong the self-defense mechanism is going to be the severity of the energy deficit. So if you made $2,000 a month and you had to cut down your expenses to $1,000, that's a pretty severe cut, right? So your body's self-defense mechanism would have to take a pretty severe cut as well. Also, how long that deficit's imposed, so how long you've been under eating is going to increase how strong the self-defense mechanism is, and then how frequently those deficits are imposed. So how long or how frequently you diet really hammers down how strong that self-defense mechanism is. So a little story or background about me. I used to be in football and wrestling, two completely different weight classes that I needed to be in high school. For football, I needed to be 195, 200 pounds. For wrestling, I dropped to 145 at 6 foot tall. I messed myself up pretty bad in high school activating this self-defense mechanism because the severity of the energy deficit that I had to get in while joining wrestling, the length of how long I was doing that and how frequently I was doing it, I put myself personally in a really bad place. So I'm coming from a place of experience as to why, how I know this to be true. So anybody else in here that's had a similar experience that you'd like to share? That maybe you've done a diet that was a little too severe, or it was a really long time, or you just frequently did yo-yo diets up and down, up and down.
Well, I can talk a little bit about mine. So when I weighed 230 pounds, I was eating in a surplus. So I was eating enough and eating too much to obviously gain that weight. So all I needed to do was cut the calories and eat better. which really I was just eating better. I wasn't really caring about the calories at the time. But after I lost the 65 pounds in, I think, 7 months, after that, I just completely stalled out for about 3 or 4 years. And I gained a little bit of progress, but I was trying to eat only like 1,600 calories. I felt like I was overeating at 1,800 calories. And then once I got this information from you, I changed that and it was just a game changer. But it was like I was just beating myself into the ground. I lost my menstrual cycle. I was constantly tired. I had no enthusiasm for training. And I was wondering why I was not making progress in any pictures. So
Yeah, and we're gonna get into a little bit more of that when I get into the recommendations before dieting. But like you said, there was a lot of the warning signs when you're under eating about 1,600, 1,800 calories, right? Like you lost your menstrual
mhm.
cycle, or maybe your energy was just super low, your sleep wasn't good. Like there's a lot of different things that you can see physiologically, and you'll understand whether or not you're in a good place to actually even try to diet at the time. So and with what I'm going to go over with the reverse diet kind of puts you into that place where you're ready to go to that next step. So thanks for sharing, Heather. Does anybody else have anything that they've done before where they've lost a lot of weight and gained it back, or you know thought
Well,
they were on?
last year I lost about 30 pounds in 3 months. I basically cut my meal down to one meal. I didn't count the calorie. And similar thing happened, I guess. And then, I gained it all back quick.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I could sustain it. Yeah.
It's hard to sustain it, correct? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And a lot of the diets that you'll see on Google or the things that you'll read on the internet or in the magazines, the problem is they work very temporarily, but they're not sustainable, right? You don't want to lose 30 pounds last year and gain it all back. And then you just look back on, oh, yeah, 2021, I lost 30 pounds. What does that matter to you 10 years from now, right? So we want it to be sustainable for the long term, right? So thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing. Awesome.
I mean, the theory is sound though. I mean, I was looking at intake and outtake, right? I figure, if intake was less and then I exercise more, putting on more output, and I would drop the weight. And that's
You
what
did.
I exactly did. Yeah. I dropped like 30 pounds fast.
So now let me go. Yes. So now let me go into what I just spoken about, the body's self-defense mechanism, right? So what you had done is you activated, let me go back here, and you'd activated the body's self-defense mechanism right here. So it was I'm sure it was a pretty severe deficit, right? 1 meal a day is a very severe deficit in the amount of calories that you ate, right? How long that deficit was imposed? You said it was 6 months? Or I'm sorry, I forgot how many months it was. 3 months? Okay.
Yeah.
And
3 months.
then,
Sorry, I was missed.
yeah. Uh-huh. So what you did right here, and what would cause the weight regain was the severity of the deficit, right? So if you were using the money terms, you went from making $2,000 a month to $1,000 a month, and your body, instead of spending $2,000 a month, it started spending $1,000 a month. And if you're not able to maintain the amount of activity and the deficit that you are doing, now you start making $1,500 a month, and guess what happens? Your body starts storing fat, storing fat, storing fat, storing fat, and now it makes it hard to lose that weight again. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So that's what it does. In your case, that's what it was. The severity of it caused your body's self-defense mechanism to start to activate. And now maybe you eat a meal and a half a day, and now all those calories get stored as fat because it wants to store fat, like Danny said earlier, in case of a future famine or they don't know where the food's coming from. Our body hasn't adapted to having a grocery store down the street where we can just go, go through the drive-through, or it has survival mechanisms that it's had in place for quite a while, but hasn't adapted to having Jack in the Box down the street. So that's just an example for you. Does anybody have another example like that they want to kind of like talk through, or before we get going? If not, that's okay. All righty. Who here is familiar with the movie, or not the movie, the show The Biggest Loser? Have you guys seen that show?
Yeah, I seen them.
Yeah. So The Biggest Loser, they had a bunch of clients on there, and they were pretty heavy. They lost a lot of weight really, really quickly, and they kind of cut their calories, 1,200 calories. They'd run them to death, beat them up, and it was a glorified show for a while, and it made me sick to my stomach. The participants on The Biggest Loser, how many? First of all, I'm going to ask how many percentage wise, how many of those clients kept or got the weight off but gained it all back and more? Very similar to kind of what happened in Mike's story.
A lot.
5%?
It was
All of them?
93%.
Right,
Yeah,
Wow.
93% of the clients on The Biggest Loser gained all of the weight back that they had previously lost and more, because they set off this body's self-defense mechanism. And so did those coaches, I don't want to name the coaches, but they're pretty big name coaches on that show. Did those coaches do those clients a service or a disservice?
This
Because
service.
it wasn't sustainable.
Yeah, and
It was a
actually
tip, and it was teach you
Mhm.
how to live or how to eat and how to, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
I don't think that was done.
so those participants in The Biggest Loser, their metabolic rate, right? Their metabolism got slower by 20%, and that lasted for 6 years for most of the clients on that show. From the methods that were used on that show to lose the weight quickly. For 6 years, the metabolic rate dropped 20%. So if you're thinking about that in money, right? If they're able to spend $2,000 a month, their metabolism was burning that much. 20%, that gets them down to 1,600 calories. That's a full meal a day that they're not, metabolism isn't burning correctly every single day, which ends up adding weight, adding weight, adding weight, adding weight. So this is why I feel like this presentation is important, just to get your guys' eyes open, because a lot of stuff that you're going to see on the internet is going to be something similar to what they did with the clients in The Biggest Loser. So let's see. Let's go ahead. Now, energy in is basically the amount of calories that you consume, how much money that you make. Energy out, like I said, the body's self-defense mechanism will change that. Also, these things right here will change that number for your energy out number. So NEAT is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Basically, it's fidgeting, it's talking, it's things that you're doing that aren't exercise that are burning calories. Me waving my hands like this while I talk is burning calories, right? NEAT is part of that. Yeah, so if you want to just wiggle and get your wiggles out, right? That'll increase the amount of calories you burn through NEAT, non-exercise activity
You-
thermogenesis.
You burn calorie while sleeping too, right?
You do, and which is very important, and I'm going to get to that very soon. Yes, you're correct, Mike. Excellent. Thermic effect of food. You burn calories eating food. Isn't that cool? Your body has to digest that food, and it takes calories, energy to digest your food. Now, it takes more calories to digest certain types of food. Does anybody know what kind of food would make you burn more calories as far as digestion goes?
Proteins?
Proteins?
I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. Proteins, and then there's another one. Your
Mm.
fibers. Your fibers are hard to break down. Your non-soluble fiber.
Vegetables.
Yeah. Your proteins and your vegetables, they are harder to break down. So they're going to take more calories to use. So your body burns more calories while digesting those. Exercise, of course, right? Exercise is going to go to your daily energy expenditure. But like Mike said, I think you said you did too much exercise.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I did it daily, basically.
Yeah. And then sometimes you're burning yourself out. Too much exercise. I know I'm a coach and I should be promoting exercise, but too much of it does the same thing as if you're burning or you're eating too little as far as the body's self-defense mechanism goes. So like Heather said, your body becomes more efficient in burning calories. So maybe you did a cardio workout for an hour that burned 500 calories. Now you continue to do that day after day after day for a month, you're no longer going to be burning 500 calories. Your body gets efficient with cardio, especially. And instead of burning 500, you may burn 400, you may burn 350, right? So more is not always better. You're actually activating a self-defense mechanism because your body doesn't want to burn calories all the time. It wants to be efficient. It wants to make sure that you're surviving. It doesn't care about your fat or your aesthetics. It cares about survival. So too much exercise can be a bad thing as well. Too much cardiovascular training for the sole reason of fat loss. That's why I don't recommend too much cardiovascular training for fat loss goals. For your cardiovascular health, plenty, it does wonders, but for fat loss, it's actually a bit detrimental. Now, all of these decrease during extreme dieting. That means less calories out. So if you're extreme dieting, you're supposed to eat 2,200 calories and you're eating 1,200 calories, all of this goes down. What your body would normally do, these go down throughout the day, all day, every day. And it makes it harder. Then you have to diet even harder to lose weight or do more activity to lose weight. And eventually it just becomes unreasonable and unsustainable. So that's why we want to go, we want to have a different strategy, which I'm going to get into not right now. I thought it was the next slide. It's going to be coming up soon. Hormonal adaptations. So I'm going to get a little bit into hormones. Not very much. I'm just going to give you the two hormones that you're probably going to need to know the most, right? So to keep it simple, we're going to go over leptin and we're going to go over ghrelin. What leptin does is it reduces fat cell size and it also suppresses hunger. So this hormone really, it makes you not so hungry and it also reduces fat cell size. How many of you guys know that you don't lose fat cells? You can gain fat cells, but you don't lose fat cells.
I didn't know that.
You don't lose them. You knew that? You knew that, Daniel?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
I
sorry.
that's new to this. I've never heard this.
I'm gonna have to call you Danny, just because I have a Daniel, and it sounds very
Okay.
so Danielle and Daniel. No, but Daniel knew. You knew that fat cells don't they don't get eliminated, right?
You can call me Jack.
I'll call you Jack. Okay, and then I'll
Hey,
call you
Daniel.
yeah, Jack Reacher.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see. That's one of the great things they terrify you about, that no matter what, even when you lose a bunch of weight, you still have those fat cells. They're just tiny and stay with you, and then they're ready to become huge again when
Yes.
you start your diet.
Yes. Right. No, I didn't say you're not able to gain fat cells, because you are, but they reduce in size when you diet. They don't go away. They're still there, but they do reduce in size. Now, so you're not burning fat cells. That's why I get very particular about the burning, because the fat cells are still there. They just shrink or they grow.
They're
Yeah,
shrinking.
they're shrinking. Yes, yeah, they shrink or they grow. They don't burn off. So, very, very important that you guys understand that. Now, leptin reduces the fat cell size and it suppresses hunger. Ghrelin, on the other hand, all it does is make you want to eat everything in the house. It
I
makes
know
you, yeah. So if you ever have that like hankering where you just can't control yourself and you have to eat everything in sight, ghrelin is being released like crazy in your body. So it is a hormonal thing. It's ghrelin that gets increased and your leptin gets decreased. So when extreme dieting the activation of the self-defense system, leptin gets reduced. So less leptin, less suppressing hunger, the fat cell size doesn't get reduced, and the ghrelin is increased. Everything in sight. I want to eat everything in sight. So your hormones act against you when you're extreme dieting. And it makes it, once again, not sustainable. and makes it very hard for you to keep up and continue with that extreme dieting. So now we're going to get into, I gave you a bunch of bad news, right? A bunch of tough stuff. We're going to get into some solutions here, right? I'm going to show you how to get from all of these things, which a lot of us, I'm telling you, 90%, 95% of the people that come through the door, their self-defense mechanism is, oh, that alarm is going, where, and they come to me and I'm telling them to eat more food. So it's going to be, this is very counterintuitive, but like I showed you in the beginning, those pictures of those ladies, they followed through, they stuck with the program, and they saw tremendous results. I don't think you were here, Jack, but if you haven't seen the picture of Valeria recently, she looks freaking amazing. I'll have to show it to you later. So
She was my coach at last Saturday, and she's definitely looking pretty buff.
yeah, she's getting really lean, and she's eating 1,000 calories more than when I started with her. So I just wanted to put that out there. So this is a quote. It's a little bit, this is about reverse dieting. To ensure success, the regain prevention strategies will likely need to be just as comprehensive, persistent, and redundant as the biological adaptations they're attempting to counter. I just gave you all of the biological adaptations that your body is doing, and we're going to try to counter that, but it's going to take persistence. It's going to be a comprehensive method, and we're going to have to do this strategically to be successful going forward. So before you diet, here is a checklist that I would like everybody to go through. And I want you to think about this for a second. If you haven't had all of these things checked off and you've been dieting, I guarantee you that self-defense mechanism is going crazy right now, which is making it very difficult to lose weight. So here are the recommendations before going on a diet. You want to be at a maintenance calories for 3 to 6 months. For most people, I'm going to give a lady that's 5'5", 165. That's about 2,200 to 2,300 calories. If you've not been eating 2,200 to 2,300 calories for just an average lady that's 5'5", 165, then you haven't been at maintenance for 3 to 6 months. And I say 2,200 to 2,300 calories, and a lot of people look at me like I'm a crazy person. So I know it sounds very, very scary, but there's a way to get to that 22 to 23 and actually start to increase the metabolism, and I'll show you how. You want to reduce stress. I know a lot of us live very stressful lifestyles. I don't know why I did that. Hold on, sorry.
That's me.
Oh, got Martha in here. Sorry, I get new people coming in here and I just gotta do this. Oh no, I didn't go back. Crud. Sorry. Excellent. What's happening, Martha? Okay, you want to reduce stress. Stress reduces or releases hormones that will slow down your metabolism and start the fat regain. I'm just going to call it self-defense mechanism. Stress activates the self-defense mechanism without getting too much into the science. Your thyroid levels, you want your thyroid levels to be good. If you haven't gotten a physical in the last 6 months to a year and you don't know how your thyroid levels are, thyroid has a huge impact on your metabolism and your hormones. We want to make sure you're having a regular menstrual cycle. Not having a regular menstrual cycle when you know you should be is a sign that you have been under eating or over exercising for a really long period of time, which is causing your body to not have the metabolism that you're going to want to lose weight. You shouldn't diet for more than 3 to 4 months at a time, and you should only diet 1 to 2 times per year. Because remember in the beginning, I said the more frequent that the self-defense mechanism is activated, the stronger the response is, So you don't want the duration to be too long, and you don't want it to be too frequent. This is why this is the recommendation right here. I get a lot of people that have been eating 1,000 calories too low for like 3 or 4 years. We got a lot of work to do. right? And it's not something that they want to hear, but we got a lot of work to do, but it's going to be worth it in the end. So dieting isn't recommended 1 to 1.5 years postpartum, of course, because you want to be breastfeeding, you want to have nutrients for your kids, you want your hormones to be balanced. But if you do want a better physique after having a child, it's very, very possible. You can eat more calories and build more muscle, which would lean out your body. You'd be a smaller physique, but the weight wouldn't change very much. It may even increase a little bit, but you'll have a nicer physique. So there is a way that you can do that by eating more after having a baby. Getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. Mike, you're the one who brought up the sleep, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So how many calories do you think you can burn 7 to 9 hours of sleep?
400 to 500.
For 6, yeah, for 7, that's 4 to 5. You can burn up to like 600, 700 calories a night.
No, for
Does that
me,
mean-
yeah, I'm around 6 hours, so
Yeah,
I'm burning
yeah.
about 400 to 500.
So you're on the lower end, but you can get up to 6, 7, sometimes 800 calories. How many workouts is that? Just getting a full night's sleep. It's like 2 workouts, huh?
Mm.
Yeah. So sleep is super important. It also regulates your hormones. It also helps to, it releases growth factor and the testosterone and the estrogen that your body needs to actually burn fat properly. All that happens in the nighttime. It doesn't happen while you're working out. The magic of all the fat burning stuff happens while you're sleeping. Actually, that's where all the magic happens. I get more people to say, "Can I do more workouts, more workouts, more workouts?" And I said, "Are you getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep?" No. Well, then skip your workout and get more sleep. It's more effective like that. Yeah. And then drinking half of your body weight in ounces of water. Are there any questions on the recommendations that I have put up for before dieting? Are any of these kind of surprising to you or things that you haven't considered in the past? I thought Martha was going to say something.
Oh, well, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, no, I was going to say, well, I just tuned in. So all of this here sounds very familiar. So am I very late? Are you almost done?
No,
Okay.
I'm more than halfway done, but I did record it, so you can get the recording as well.
Okay.
But it's good that you're on in case you have questions. I'm highly recommending people ask questions because I know this is really new information for a lot of people.
Yes.
But if you've been around me for a while, then it's not new at all. Okay, cool. Awesome. So now we get into the solution, reverse dieting. And it's basically exactly what it sounds like. It is doing the reverse of what a diet is. So the purpose of a reverse diet is to increase your metabolic rate while minimizing fat regain. You're going to be eating more calories, but at a slow, sustained pace. And it's going to help you to speed back the metabolism up so it starts burning the amount of calories that it needs to. And it's going to help, lean out your body to get a better physique. So maintaining a nice body composition on a higher calorie intake, and you lose weight effectively in the future. So let's get into it. Common mistakes are increasing calories too quickly. So if you've been in a severe deficit where you're eating 1,200 calories and you bump it all the way back up to 2,200 calories, that's 1,000 calorie surplus. And that's where your body will store fat or create new fat cells. And that's where it makes it harder to lose weight in the future because now you have more fat cells that need to shrink or grow, right? So the more fat cells you put on your body coming out of a diet actually puts you in a pretty tough situation in the future trying to lose weight, which is why we need to do it in a sustainable way via reverse dieting. So staying at a maintenance that's too low, being at that 1,200 calories, it's just too darn low for a long period of time. Or just bumping that up and staying at 1,400 calories instead of slowly getting all the way back up to 2,200 calories. That'll make things very difficult as well. not hitting your protein goal, we want to make sure you hit your protein goal, because the protein is actually going to build more muscle. And as we'll find out, more muscle in your body equals more calories being used. You're going to end up having a faster metabolism by having more muscle on your body. And you also want to increase both your fat and your carbohydrates. You want to increase fat because fat is important for your hormones. For ladies, it's recommended that you get about 60 grams minimum per day so that you can have regular hormone health. So if you're not eating 60 grams per day and you're doing that chronically, it may lead to something like your menstrual cycle not coming when it needs to, or just hormonal ups and downs for both men and female. So we want to make sure we increase all of those things. So these are guidelines. These are the guidelines that I gave coaches. So this might be a little bit much for a client, but if you want to take these recommendations and use them, feel free to do so. But this is something that I've taught the coaches to do, and it's very individual to individual. I kind of gave it a cookie cutter, but there is an individual aspect to this. So if your maintenance calories are too low, you're eating 1,200 calories, we want to increase that by 10 to 20% every 2 to 3 weeks until the new maintenance is reasonable. So 10 to 20% of 1,200 calories. So that's anywhere between an extra 120 calories to like an extra 200 calories. So instead of going from 1,200 to 2,200, you'd go from 1,200 to 1,320, right? It's a very slow, methodical process. You'd add that many calories per day for 2 to 3 weeks, for every 2 to 3 weeks, or until you start seeing signs of the client gets more hungry, their sleep improves, their energy is better, their workouts, they're getting stronger. These are things that as a coach, you're looking at to make sure that your clients are, all of these physiological things are happening before you bump it up more, right? Because if you bump it up too fast, I get a lot of clients, oh, I feel like I'm stuffing myself, or I don't feel good, right? We want to do this very slowly and methodically all the way back up. But you should be paying attention to your energy levels, your sleep, your stress, your strength in the gym. If all of those things are improving, then everything is working according to plan. So we want to be able to strength train, because when you are in a surplus, right, you're going to gain maybe a pound a week during this process. But if you want that pound a week to eventually turn into muscle, which would slim down your physique, you want to be able to strength train. Cardio won't do it for you. Strength training is what's going to create the muscle that's going to increase the metabolic rate going forward. So adding muscle strength training while in a reverse diet is ideal. Increasing both fat and carbohydrates, we want to increase more fat for your hormone balance, like I mentioned in the last slide, and carbs are for energy, right? Carbs are your friends. It's just not the cookies and the cake, right? Make sure your carbs
Sugar.
come from yeah, well, there's sugar in fruits and stuff, but it's a different type of sugar. So
Right.
when you say sugar, it's processed sugar, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like to be very specific with these things just to make sure. Because yeah, somebody will say fruit, there's sugar in fruit. Yeah, it's different. It's a different sugar. Yeah. So I'm almost done with this. I have 2 more things. Common diets. Does anybody know why the keto diet works?
Fat, high fat, low carb.
Okay, so
That's it.
that's oh sorry, yeah, so no, but okay, so that's what you'll read on the internet, right? The ketogenic diets burn more fat, right? Earlier in the presentation, I explained that all of this is energy balance, which is calories in and calories out. So although it's true that you do burn more fat during keto, What they don't tell you is you also store more fat because your body is what are you putting into your body in a ketogenic diet? Predominantly, you're putting fat into your body. So you're burning the fat that you're putting into your body, dietary fat. That doesn't mean body fat, right? So when somebody says burn fat for a ketogenic diet, it means use the fat that you're putting in via avocado or steak or whatever, use that fat as energy to burn, not body fat. So burning body fat and fat oxidation, they're two different things, and they don't separate those two, right? So you do burn more fat, you also store more fat. So it's net zero unless what we went over in the very beginning. I know you weren't there, Martha, but unless your energy balance is less than or you're burning more than you're putting in. So there is no magic with the ketogenic diet. What the ketogenic diet does help you do is reduce the amount of calories you eat. If you're not eating French fries, rice, all those things that I can eat like 4 plates of, right? But instead you change it for a steak or, avocado. It's hard to overeat steak. Eggs, right? It's hard to overeat those things. Does that make sense? So what happens with your calories if it's hard to overeat those things?
Less.
You eat less calories, which in turn equals fat loss. So is there magic in the ketogenic diet? You burn more fat? No. But somebody who's eating McDonald's every day, standard American diet, switching from that to going to a ketogenic diet where you're eating real food and food that's satiating, that keeps you full for a long time, you're naturally going to lose weight, but there's no magic in the keto. It's because your calories went down. Does that kind of make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So the magic that they're selling isn't magic. It's energy balance, energy in, energy out. What we went over in the very beginning. Would anybody be able to figure out why intermittent fasting works?
Calorie restriction.
Same thing. Energy in, energy out, right? Instead of eating 16 hours a day and going to the pantry at night, you're restricted to eating 1 or 2 meals a day, right? Very similar to probably something that Mike did, right? You had 1 meal a day. That's in a way an intermittent fasting because you restricted your time window to 1 meal, right? And
Yeah,
it made
right
it so
now,
that
yeah, right now I still only have 2 meals a day. I mean, I have been doing this for years, so I never eat breakfast basically. I know it's not a good thing, but
no, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And I'll explain. Go ahead. Yeah, it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Okay, that's good. I was just wondering. All right, thank you.
Yeah, so to explain why it's not necessarily a bad thing, it's a tool in your tool belt to reduce calories, right? Now, if we use it appropriately and you're able to eat the appropriate amount of calories within those 2 meals, then you're going to be okay. But if you're in a severe restriction because you're only eating those 2 meals, then that's where the problem comes in, right? Because you're not eating enough. But if you want to use intermittent fasting as a tool to reduce the amount of energy in and the energy out, thing, that's perfectly fine. It's a tool in your tool belt. But understand there's no magic behind it. Intermittent fasting, you'll read on the internet, it says that you burn more fat while you're fasting. Well, then you also store more fat when you refeed for the first meal. So any extra fat that you burned while you're fasting, your body restored during your first meal, which would be lunch for you, right? Your body stored more fat, right? It did burn more fat during the fasting time, but it also stored more fat. Net zero, the only thing that matters in the end would be the energy balance and how many calories you had and how many calories your body was burning. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Same thing goes for a vegetarian diet. You're not going to overeat on vegetables or fruits and vegetables, right? A lot of fiber keeps you full for a long time. Now your calories in is reduced as well. Carnivore, same thing. It's hard to overeat steak. You're not going to eat too much meat, right? Once again, same idea. You're going to end up eating less calories. Paleo, same thing. Low carb, same thing. It's all the same thing. It's just a tool in your tool belt to eat less calories throughout the day. Does that make sense? So any magic that somebody's trying to sell you, it's not really magical. It's just calories in, calories out. Any questions on any of these? Has anybody tried one of these and seen like success? But once again, very restrictive, right? Very restrictive, and it's very hard to sustain to for a long period of time, which is why I recommend eating the widest amount of foods that your body can handle, and doing it in a way that is appropriate to fuel your body. You don't want to run your car on empty all the time. You want your gas tank to be full and using the gas in the body, right? So, and then last one, just some action steps here. So what do we want to do coming out of this? We want to increase calories slowly. If you're in a deficit that's too low and you're having a hard time, you want to hit your protein and your fat goals so that you can gain muscle and that your hormones are working properly. And you want to increase calories slowly, the 10 to 15% every 2 to 3 weeks, or we wait longer than 2 to 3 weeks if your sleep hasn't improved, your strength isn't improving, you're still stressing out. Then we wait. We don't keep adding more. We wait until those things start to improve. Those are things that your coach is going to be looking at before we start adding more calories. We want to focus on nutrient-dense foods, your lean meats, your fruits, your vegetables, your nuts, seeds, and lentils. We want to incorporate strength training because more muscle equals a faster metabolism. A pound of fat and a pound of muscle, the muscle is 3 times more metabolically active. So if I'm going to throw a flat number out there, a pound of fat burns 100 calories per day, a pound of muscle would do 300 calories a day. No, those aren't accurate numbers, but it's just a representation on how much more active muscle tissue is and how much more calories it takes to maintain that on your body. So your body ends up burning more calories throughout the day. So it's important that we incorporate strength training. Staying active, 8 to 10,000 steps daily. I know that's hard for a lot of us, but making sure that this is like your exercise or your NEAT. We want to make sure your body is moving. You want to get enough sleep to regulate your hormones, your hunger, and your metabolism. You're also going to burn 600 to 800 calories a night if you're doing those 7 to 9 hours of sleep. We want to reduce stress. Chronic stress also disrupts hormones and metabolism. And then we also kind of want to consult with a healthcare professional. We don't want to do this on our own. So getting regular blood work or working with a registered dietitian when needed, or, to the scope that a personal trainer can do this, working with a personal trainer is always recommended. And then that's it. I guess I have a little bit of time for questions. If anybody has any additional questions. Anything that you heard?
do.
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so if you're increasing your calories, but you're not going to be as active as you should be, should we just kind of maybe not increase some on a daily basis? Because if not, you're just putting on calories, right? If you're not strength training and being active.
Yes.
Or will it still work if you? I know people that don't eat enough also gain more. So you should be having at least 3 meals, but to increase the calories like that and know that you're not going to be as active or do any strength training, should we just not eat those calories daily?
That's a great question. And I'm going to let you know right now, 80% of this weight loss thing is new nutrition. 20% of it is your exercise, right? So you can still do a reverse diet, adding calories, right? Now, are you saying absolutely sedentary, not working out ever at all?
No. Just not working out as, like the 3 to 5 days recommended.
Yeah,
Saying you're
so Yeah.
And then
Okay.
we
So
only do it, you're doing like an hour of a workout, half an hour to an hour of a workout, and then you're sedentary.
yeah. So more of if you're only doing boot camp like 2 to 3 times a week, I would still
Yeah.
recommend that you add calories. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
In that case, you definitely would still want to add the calories. Yeah. Your body will adapt to using more of the calories. Your body will have more energy. Your body will want to do more of the NEAT, the non-exercise activity thermogenesis. You're going to have more energy, so you're gonna end up doing more things like things around the house, or you're going to want to go for more walks. Your body is going to want to use that energy, which will end up being not structured exercise, but it will be using that energy. Yeah. So I
Right.
would still, but you wouldn't want to do it in a way that's not sustainable. Like remember that 10 to 15%, you'd want a coach guiding you throughout that process. A lot of times people just add the calories and it's too much calories, right? And then that's where the fat cells start to come back in, and that's where you start having issues. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yes. Yeah. I think one of the things that for me, I mean, I have the mindset is just having a count or log
Mm-hmm.
is where it just gets you know, left behind. So having to count calories, or I guess just basically knowing after a while that this is basically how many calories this, these meals are, if you're doing it enough times. But yeah, it's still what I consider a diet is having to count, having to measure, having to restrict, or just it just makes it more difficult. The
And
counting, the logging.
so if I go back, if we just did this right here, focus on nutrient dense foods,
Uh-huh.
as
Yes.
far as instead of counting calories, like
Uh-huh.
we can get to there someday, right? But I'm not going to tell you there's an ideal and then there's what you're willing to do today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are two different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
A coach says this is where, well, I would, in that case, I would meet you where you are. Okay, can we add an extra portion of lean meat into your diet each day, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
You didn't need to count a single calorie, but what did that do? It did increase your calories, and it got you closer to,
yeah.
and it got you closer to that goal, and you didn't have to put anything into an app, right? There's ways that you could, a coach can guide you through that process without you having to put everything into MyFitnessPal. Now, ideally, MyFitnessPal or Lose It app, right? Ideally, that's so you know exactly. But if you're not ready for that, well, there's different ways that we can get you through a reverse diet and do all these things without like Jedi mind tricks to get you to do what we want you to do without making you do all the extra work. Yeah,
Okay.
that was a good question though.
Yeah, excellent question.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any excellent questions?
I am sure people are probably wondering this because sometimes when you take this on, you realize you have a lot more food to eat. So how would you suggest a solution for people who, when they start this process, they're feeling stuffed?
Yes. And for most people, don't gorge yourself. I'm not saying gorge yourself at all. But for most people, you're gonna be eating a little bit more food than you're comfortable. Pushing yourself outside of the comfort zone is okay. Now, after about a week of not gorging yourself, but feeling full, right? Your body's gonna want to use more of that energy. Let your body, that's what the 2 to 3 weeks are for before we add more calories, because we want our body to adapt to wanting to use more of that energy, wanting to go for more walks, wanting to do more things around the house. We want it to slowly adapt. You don't want to go from 1200 to 2200. That's what the slow process. And for some people, it may take more than 2 to 3 weeks, which is why you want that coach to guide you along the way. Yeah. So don't gorge yourself, but it is normal to feel a little bit uncomfortable eating more. And a lot of it is psychologically, like I'm eating more food, it's freaking me out. Like I think that that'll be more of the problem than actual like gorging yourself. Does that kind of answer your question, Heather?
Yeah, definitely. And then going off this, so when I did reverse dieting, for me, this was really a liberating experience, because originally when I first started doing it, I was trying to like eat super clean and eat like 100% whole foods, and I felt stuffed and I felt terrible. And so for me, like it made me realize like I have more wiggle room for more treats and like little places where I can have like little indulgences. Like I mean, I have healthier cereal, but I'm like, oh, I can hit my calories if I just have like a bowl of cereal. So like, what is your opinion on that? Like, 'cause I know sometimes we focus so much on whole foods, and sometimes people are like, oh, I still need to eat super clean on this. So what is your opinion on
I fought with
finding
Valeria.
that? Yeah.
I fought with Valeria for months for her to go to In-N-Out and get a double double.
That's a nice punishment.
No, this is pre-double double right here, and this is post feeling okay to go get a double double at In-N-Out. No, it's not every day, but
Right.
it's the mindset that, hey, my body could probably use the extra calories. You know, I'm working out, my body can use extra calories. It's going to convert it into muscle. She looks lean here, right?
Mhm.
This is her working. The workouts, not much different. She's doing the same programs as like when I was training her, I'm giving her the same program so she can do it on her own. The workout regimen hasn't changed very much at all. But what has changed is she's felt liberated to be able to have those extra snacks and treats that you're saying, not every day, but it's not like a mental block, like I can't have those things. Sometimes the best thing for somebody like that is to have the double double. And I fought tooth and nail for Valeria to go get that double double. And she said afterwards, her workout the next day was phenomenal. She says, I feel great. And it's like, yeah, your body needed the extra calories. It's okay. You know, now I'm not telling you to go to get double doubles every day, but like it's not going to be the end of the world, right?
Yeah.
So
And
to
I
answer
have
your
one
question,
more. So
Hi, baby. I'm on a Zoom. Oh, bye.
yeah, so one more. So what would you say if you have someone who super busy all day long, they don't have any time to eat, and then next thing you know, it's already like 6 p.m. They're only at like 500 calories. Like, what would you be your advice for that person who like they don't eat all day long because they're stressed and busy, and then they're like, oh, well, didn't hit my calories. So
yeah, don't try to get all your calories in one meal. Don't do that, right? I would take the L for the day. I would say, all right, I'm going to eat a normal meal, make sure it's nutrient dense because I didn't get very many nutrients throughout the day. And what I would do in that case is successful behavior is always planned behavior. If you're not planning, knowing that you have a busy day, and if you're not putting it into your calendar to eat during this time, and you don't have quick snacks that are going to be nutrient dense with you, successful behavior is planned behavior. You have to plan that out. So take the L for the day. All right, I messed up today. It's okay. One day is not going to ruin everything, right? I'm not going to go home and just try to eat all 1,500 extra calories that day, that night. I'm going to eat a normal meal, make sure it's nutrient dense, so I get the vitamins and the minerals and all the nutrients that my body needs. And then the next day, I'm going to plan ahead, right? Because if you don't plan ahead, you're destined to be unsuccessful. Successful behavior is always planned behavior. Yeah.
All right.
So
Thank
don't
you.
make it a habit. Yeah, you can have a day where darn it, it just didn't work out. But if that's every day, then there's a behavior change that you need to incorporate to make yourself successful going forward. Because you can't just live at the whim of everything. You can't live at the whim of life because life will throw things at you. You've got to kind of create control. Yeah. I have to put it into my
Thank you.
calendar so that I don't get people making Calendly invites on me when I'm trying to. That's my time to eat. Like, so yeah,
I have my snacks on my calendar too.
yeah. Exactly. Your phone, yeah, you get lost at work. Oh, my watch. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna go grab my snack. Like, yes, exactly.
Smart.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like I check my calendar more than I check my fridge. So
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good habit to
that-
get into.
Yeah. And all of its habits, all of its behavior change, right? It's little things, but that's what a coach is there for. Help guide you through those things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, if nobody has
Awesome.
I
any
have a
other
question.
questions,
I have a
yeah,
question.
go ahead. Yeah.
Like I say, you know, for the past 2-3 decades, I get used to 6 hours sleep, right? And now I try to adjust it to 7 hour. But even though the lock time is like 6 hour and some minutes, but then the actual, according to my assumption, it's only like 5 hours something. That's why I always burn between 400 to 500. Now I realize that I was supposed to burn 700 to 800. Would that be a huge problem for me, or?
So this is very common for a lot of people. There's you know how you have a morning routine to wake up?
Mhm.
To be more successful, having a bedtime routine helps so that you get better quality of sleep. So what that means is not looking at screens an hour before, turning off lights, not doing anything that's stressful, having a calming, relaxing bedtime routine to wind down going into bed will increase that 5 hours to closer to 6 hours.
Okay.
Yeah,
That makes sense. I guess that's one of my bad habit too, that, you know, I was
Me
looking
too.
at screen. Yeah, I
Oh.
looking at screen before sleep, so I have to change that then. Okay.
I'm right here playing my video games too late at night sometimes. Yeah,
Yeah.
same thing. And what I do is I set an alarm on my watch an hour before I'm supposed to go to bed so that I can wind down. And if I don't set that alarm, I'm over here playing video games and then, all right, time to go to sleep. Your brain's, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I guess I do more meditation then. I do it
I
in the
can
morning. I supposed to do it at night, but you know.
remind
I
me
do.
on Monday. I will send you a podcast. Gives you good information on that.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So people who can't sleep, they can't stay asleep, they're, insomnia, or I couldn't sleep, a lot of that could be not eating enough, right?
Yeah, so what happens is the body's self-defense mechanism comes on, your increased stress, your hormones are out of balance. Yeah, I mean, not
Okay.
eating enough can throw so many different things off, right? And yeah, one of them is your mental state. Of course, there's like a direct correlation with food and your mental state, right? We all already kind of know that, but yeah, not eating enough, it's going to definitely affect all of those other things. What I like to say is those 5 things that I tell you: eating whole foods, sleep, stress, water intake, and activity, they're all pillars to a house. And if one of those pillars falls down, the whole house gets shaky, right? You want all 5 of those pillars to be strong, or else 2 of those are off, now the house is really unstable and it affects everything else. So yeah, exactly. One thing can throw it, and nutrition's a big one. Nutrition is a real big one. Stress is a big one, sleep's a big one, water intake's a big one, activity, all of these things. Yeah. It's simple, but it's not easy. The concept is very simple, but it is very hard to do.
And you would not even make that connection, like, oh, I didn't eat enough, so I'm not even going to sleep enough. I mean, I'm not going to get enough sleep.
It
It's
takes
one
a
of
ton
those-
of self-awareness, to realize that. Yeah,
and acceptance.
you're 100% correct. Yeah.
Yeah, acceptance. Stop denying.
Yeah, you gotta be really honest with yourself, and your self-evaluation, which is tough. Yeah. No, but yeah, you're 100% right with that.
Excellent questions. 100%
I
right.
know. I
Right?
know. Look at you
High
go.
five.
I have a question.
Yes, Jennifer.
This is okay. So, does eating too much protein, such as red meats, increase your bad cholesterol level to go higher?
Great question. Outside the
Great
scope of the
question.
presentation, but there is a new research study. That's not new. It's out of the University of Chicago. Harvard might have done a study on this as well. But dietary cholesterol does not have as much of an effect on cardiovascular health and disease as it was once told or once perceived. So they did this with eggs, right? Eggs are another thing that people say that it raises your cholesterol. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to preface this right now. I'm going to cite the study and my own anecdotal experience. I am not a medical doctor. I would not tell you to go against anything that your doctor is telling you to. This is relatively new science. But what happens is the cholesterol that gets extracted from steak or eggs, it goes through your small intestine and gets into your body, but whatever isn't used gets excreted back through your intestines.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the reason why
So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, the reason why I'm asking because I had my physical exam back. Everything went well with the exception of the bad cholesterol went up 13%, which is nothing. He said it's nothing to worry about, but I was just kind of curious.
Now, my question for you is, has your stress levels increased during the time between those two physicals?
Probably, yeah, probably.
Now, this is where I'm going to get into what actually causes much of the cardiovascular disease and why it's been spiked recently in the last 30, 40 years. So stress causes small micro tears in your arteries, which
Mhm.
then scab up and create blockage within your cardiovascular system, which is then increasing the restriction and causing a lot of this. And they're still making that, it makes it for the cholesterol that is in the bloodstream harder to get through, so it stays in there longer. But it's not necessarily because there's too much, because your body regulates it through the intestines, like I told you. But it's more so the blockage that the stress is causing, keeping it in there longer than it needs to be.
Mm.
Now, like I
You
said,
gotta have that double.
no. Like I said, not a doctor or anything, but this is a new research study that I read a couple years ago that like completely flipped a switch in my mind. And
Wow.
yeah, and why I put stress is one of the big things on there that you need to take care of. Yeah. People think it's not so important. It's way more important than you think it is. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Christian.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm not telling you to go against anything that your doctor told you to do, but this is just anecdotal from my experience as a coach. Yep.
Awesomeness.
Yeah.
Yay. Very
Awesome.
informative.
I know we ran a little bit like 20 minutes long, but if you guys don't have any other questions, I mean, I'm not in a hurry, but I don't want everybody to waste their whole Saturday, you know?
Well, thank you for your time,
Thank you.
Christian. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you guys for joining. I hope it was helpful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Yeah,
You
have a
too.
good
Take care.
weekend, everyone.
Yes. Okay, I'm gonna eat.
Right after this